him to the one and only Team 2.
G'day guys, how are we? Welcome to Talking Boxing. It is Monday, October the 2nd, 2023. And now I didn't have a chance to check my microphone, so please let me know if it's no good and I will switch to the manual microphone on the computer. But great to have you along. It's been a big weekend for the boxing, for the football. I'm going to get it out of the road really quick. Congratulations to Collingwood. They beat the Brisbane Lions by 4 points in the AFL decider on Saturday. And for even worse news for you Queenslanders out there, the Broncos lost to the Penrith Panthers. I didn't see the game, I must admit, but I did actually look at the scores a couple of times, and I don't know how they lost it. I looked at it was like 59 minutes or something gone, and the Broncos were up, I think it was 24-8 or something like that. And then just happened to scroll through the social media about 20 minutes later, and they'd managed to lose it. Brisbane, what is going on up there? You've blown 2 grand finals on the one weekend. But anyway, I can see Big J's in the house. What do you got there, mate? Hey, mate, another huge show. Yes, plenty to go over, of course. We've got Jai Apatai's fight, the Canelo-Charlo fight. Few fights on this weekend here in Australia, so always great to have you along. So it looks like, so nothing said about my microphone, so that's cool. All right, even better. All right, mate, so didn't think it was possible, but the Broncos choked worse than the Geelong Cats did on the hairball of 08. Bloody disgusting. Jai dominant, looked excellent. Now, if you're not familiar with AFL, and I know there's a lot of overseas and interstate boxing fans here that are watching, Geelong in 2008 lost 1 game for the home and away season. So that's 22 games. They won 21. So they were 21-1 going into the finals. They won both the finals going into the grand final. So they were 23-1 going into the grand final and managed to choke and lost to Hawthorn in the 2008 grand final. So again, mate, I didn't see the game, saw a few highlights. I feel for you Brisbane supporters out there, whether it be AFL or NRL. That's the way it goes. It should have been a big weekend. It's turned into absolute catastrophe for you guys up there. So, and Brisbane in the AFL I'm talking about here, you had one job. Just beat Collingwood. Please, just beat Collingwood for the rest of us out there. Please. But anyway, it is what it is. As I said, I'm going to grit my teeth and say congratulations to Collingwood. Great game. Been to a lot of grand finals. That's probably right up in the top 1 or 2 that I've ever seen live or just in general. So an amazing game. And look, Collingwood were the better team all year, deserved the win, but that's as much as you're going to get out of me. And I'm assuming the same with the Penrith Panthers. I think that was 3 in a row. So anyway, all the best to them. And we'll move on because there's a lot obviously to get through. And we are a boxing show, not a football show. But I'll go through some more comments here and see what we've got. Big J again, Charlo versus Canelo, a one-sided mismatch. Anyone who didn't see that coming is an idiot. Nothing more than 2 ducks having a cash grab fight. You all fell for it. WBC should strip Charlo, but they won't. Yeah, look, it was a mismatch. Big J, there's probably no doubt about that. If you had seen my preview, I said Canelo would win on points, and of course he did. But I just thought that Charlo would have more of a go. How can you be at that level? I'm just spitballing here. How can you be at that level with the undisputed championship of the world at stake, 4 belts? You're an undisputed champion as well. You've got 4 belts, or you had 4 belts until you stepped in the ring, and now Tim Tszyu's got one of those belts. But you step into the ring, 20,000 people in attendance, probably 1 million on pay-per-view, all over the world. That's probably just the States, let alone all over the world. Just a massive fight in Las Vegas, and you turn up and you don't even try and win. I don't understand it. Now, maybe he's built a little bit differently in his mind. I don't know. but he's got the mantra Lions only or whatever it is. How can you go into the ring and not even try and win, try and survive? Now, I get it that Canelo, he's the man and he's knocked out a lot of guys and he's got that reputation and he's that that A grader, I suppose you'd call him. But come on, go in there and have a go. If you go in there and you get ironed out in 3 rounds, well, okay, I think we'd all say, all right, you had a go. As he said in his own words afterwards, dared to be great. Jamal Charlo, you did not dare to be great. Canelo going up and fighting Bivol, that was daring to be great because he had a go. Yes, he was outclassed and got beaten, but he went in there and tried to win the belts and he just wasn't good enough. Jamal Charlo, with the reputation that he had and what was on the line and what was at stake and everything, legacy, whatever, money, he just went in there for the payday. There, I said it. That's it. That's literally it. He went in there for the payday. And he made himself look pretty silly. And I love Terence Crawford's comments. I'm sure it'll come up somewhere along here. He said, not interested in that fight anymore. Why would I bother? How can I have respect for a guy that did not try to win? And I know I'm being scathing against an elite athlete, and he's made a lot more money than what I've ever made. But, hey, as a fan, I can have my say. And I was really embarrassed for him that he just did not have a go. And then, to actually get the microphone, I can't remember, he had a bit of a crack at not wanting to fight the winner of Tim Tszyu and Brian Mendoza. And then he wanted to call, he's just been embarrassed by Canelo. And he wants to call out the number 1 pound-for-pound guy in Crawford. I love it that Crawford said, not on my watch, buddy. I've got plenty of other big fights I can have, and you're not part of it. So I just don't look. I don't know the mental health issues we have around the world at the moment, but I've got no doubt. We know about Jamal Charlo, his brother. I've got no doubt both brothers suffer a little bit of mental illness. I'm sorry, they just do. They both just don't seem right to me, and I don't like to say that about anyone. But to have that mentality of happen then and then saying what he did, I don't understand it. But hey, now he's the one that's got to wear it, and he quite rightly, deserves to get a bit of a whack. So anyway, what do you guys think? Frankie D, how are you, mate? Thanks for the show. No worries at all, mate. Thanks for joining in. Big mate again. Charlo will sit on the bench for another 12 months. Said he was getting in the gym on Monday, mate. I don't think that's going to happen, by the way. Side note, when are you Mexicans going to piss this stupid daylight savings off? I don't need the sun up past 7 p.m. Also, thank you. Dan's gone. Yeah. I agree with you there, mate. Yeah, I forgot you guys don't have daylight savings up there. Hey, Big J, it's the best time of the year, mate. Although having it start on the weekend before school holidays ends is probably not a great idea for the poor kids out there that suddenly had to get up an hour earlier. But, hey, I'm with you, though, with Dan Andrews. We're not going to get all political and stuff. But, Dan, if you're watching, good riddance to you, mate. I actually saw his wife at the football. To be honest, I was going to the bathroom and she was going the other way. And I looked at her. She could tell that I knew who she was, and I probably didn't give her I didn't mean to, but she probably could tell I was, giving her the stink eye, and she had a second look and kept walking. But nah, look, it is what it is. I'm just glad that he's gone. Sorry, not she's gone, he's gone. One thing before we move on there, guys, what I will say, talk about Victoria and what a shambles it is at the moment, and thank God that Dan's gone, although his offside is not much better. But I was walking back from the MCG on Saturday, back to the cars, probably about a 30-minute walk. And I don't know what they've done to this city in Melbourne I'm talking about, but these stupid bloody bikes, those electric bikes and scooters they have sitting around the city that is thrown in trees and in the river and everywhere. You got to step over them all the time. I think you can literally just take one. The amount of young kids, and not just kids, adults, cruising around the city on the footpath doing 30 to 40 Ks an hour. How more people don't get injured by these things, I don't know. And then you get the young dickheads. There's 5 or 6 of them that it's a competition that who can be the biggest dickhead. And, it was quite dangerous. But anyway, enough of my rant. Let's get on to the boxing. Let's see what we've got there. James Daly, how are you, mate? Eddie Hearn has banned Opataya highlights being shown on YouTube in Australia. Okay, I didn't know that, James. I must admit, I don't normally do them for this show because it's live and it upsets the stream and everything else. But sometimes I'll grab some highlights for the Friday weekly roundup. So I'll have to keep an eye on that, mate. But that's really interesting. Very, very interesting. That's, that doesn't... So is no... Let me have a look. Just while we're going there. I know I'm sort of midstream here, but let's have a look. What is it? Jaya Pataya and Jordan Thompson. Let's have a look at him. Highlights. I won't put them on in case I get... what do we got there? No. Nothing there. And we have got some... Oh, no, that's not... no, that's highlights of Jaya Pataya and Jordan Thompson, but not actually against each other. All right. Well, I won't, especially you guys that are listening after the fact on Spotify who can't see what I'm saying. I won't go on that. But that's really interesting, James. I'll definitely have to have a look at that. Kyle Champion. Here we go. I was waiting for this one. Best weekend ever. Collingwood won at 16th Premiership. Well, that made it even worse because Carlton's won 16 and now they're even with us. But anyway, Jaya Pataya destroyed a giant with ease. And Charlo ran away from Canelo for 12 rounds. I wouldn't mind having my money back for that one. Yeah, it was just disappointing, wasn't it? I don't know if you guys agree with me. I'm sure there's some comments coming up there, but just really disappointed that someone that's just got the standing of Jamel Charlo and the way he speaks, and he's always so angry. That's why I think he's got some issues. The guy's always angry. I've never seen the guy smile. Or his brother. Well, his brother is actually not too bad, but Jamel, geez, he's just got a chip on his shoulder, hasn't he? That's what I thought. He's talked it up in the past. He would come out and he would actually have a go, and he just didn't. Just did not show up. Glenn, arguably the greatest NRL grand final ever. Yeah, well, I did hear that, Glenn, and I remember one from a few years ago that I watched at the end. It was might actually been the Broncos, and was it the Cowboys? The Cowboys kicked the field goal with on the clock, on the golden point or whatever it is. I think it was the Broncos. It was definitely the Cowboys, unless it was Gold Coast or whatever. But it was two Queensland teams, I remember. But yeah. And that's what a just no matter what code you follow, we all get off the whole AFL hates NRL and NRL hates AFL. I just think it's great that we had two unbelievable events, 100,000 at the G. I'm not sure what they get to the NRL, but just what a weekend. And I didn't mention it before, but the MCG Kiss, how good were Kiss? I said to my son who came with me, who's 18, I said, mate, you've got to see these guys live. And yes, it was only for 3 songs, I think it was, but oh, geez, they were great. And when all the kids ran out on the ground in the Kiss gear, it was awesome. But I think you had Tina Turner, a impersonator, I think, up there, didn't you, Glenn? But either way, just a really big weekend for Australian football fans, and boxing fans with Jai winning. Mark Wynn says, well done to Jai. Just watched the replay, and he was dominant. Ooh, that's a big understatement there, Mark. Underline it in capital letters. What a performance from Jaya Pataya. And we'll have a quick talk about that in a sec. I'll get through a couple more comments. So Pataya versus Thompson turned out to be free on KO. Yeah, which was awesome. Yeah, it was, wasn't it? A little bit early in the morning. I must admit, I've got a confession to make. I didn't watch it live. That was just way too early for me. So I got up. I didn't check social media. I didn't jump online at all. I jumped on the Foxtel replay thing, the on-demand, and I watched it. To me, it was live. So it was probably a couple of hours after, or an hour and a half or something after it had finished. I have to forgive me. It had been a big day the night before, or the day before at the G. It was bloody hot. It was about 30 degrees, and yeah, it was a big one. But that was great, wasn't it? I'm glad they didn't make it pay-per-view because I don't think the coverage would have been great at all, especially that time of morning. So I'm really glad that they put it on free. So they did want to get up. You didn't have to have the double whammy of forking out $60 or whatever it might have been. Asbot, how are you, mate? Warning rant to follow. What a stupid fight Alvarez versus Charlo really was. All right, mate. Well, let's go. Let's get the rant going. Big J. Apparently, Ben Damon tweeted there's a Rafa is going to fight that Garcia bloke from yesterday for the right to fight Garcia versus Lara winner for WBA 160-pound belt. All right, now let's Garcia. Which one was that? Hang on, I'll just check it out. I'll get that card up so I can have a look. Was it the first televised fight, Big J? I must admit I didn't watch that one. It was it was a big card, wasn't it? It was like a 5-hour card. It was just massive. All right, Elijah Garcia talking about. Well, okay, Big J. I did watch the last 3 rounds of that fight. I don't know why, if you've got a guaranteed world title fight, you'd be taking on Elijah Garcia, because he can fight. He's a good fighter. Knocked out Jose Resendez in the 8th round. So I just watched might have been the last couple of rounds, 7th and 8th round when he knocked him out. But that's a tough fight for Michael Zarafa there, Big J. I couldn't see that, to be honest. I'm not sure why you would risk that against a really good young fighter when you've got apparently got the world title fight in the can. So yeah, all right. I didn't see that, mate. Kyle, champion again. Proof that this match was bad for boxing all along. Funny, I saw more entertainment Macy Rose Courtney fight than the entire Canelo Charlo fight. I didn't see the Macy Rose Courtney fight. Sorry, Kyle, but look, I didn't think the card was that bad. Yes, the main event left a lot to be desired, and I think that was all due to Charlo. Canelo did what he said he was going to do, and one thing I was impressed about Canelo, and I said it in my review that's on YouTube if you want to check it out, was that he came to fight. He was prepared. He went up to the mountains. I think it was at Lake Tahoe. I think he went to in Nevada. Went up to the mountains, got himself right physically. He had a few injuries apparently in his last previous few fights, and got himself really right. And he came to fight. He went straight after Charlo. Didn't throw a lot of punches. I think I said in my review that he only he didn't throw a punch until a minute 17, I think it was, into the fight. So nearly halfway through the first round before he threw a punch. And up until then, Charlo had thrown a couple of light jabs, and that was it. But when Canelo got going, at least he sort of took center ring and tried to make the fight. As soon as he tried to take center ring, or he did take center ring, and Charlo got on his bike, it was just round after round after round was the same. And that's why I cannot believe the lack of performance we got from Charlo. And probably an argument should be made of his trainer, Derek James. Of course, he was in the corner of Errol Spence against Terence Crawford. Did not change anything and got totally dominated. And it was the same round after round after round. Similar story yesterday. Every round was pretty much the same. I didn't see Charlo try and change it up. I didn't see him try and take center ring to maybe push Canelo back. I didn't see him do anything. Now, he was losing round after round after round and did not try one thing different. And that's just what staggers me. And I understand the Errol Spence situation with Crawford, because no matter what he did, I think he did try a couple of things in that fight, to be honest. But when he tried to box, Terence Crawford hunted him down and battered him. When he tried to come forward, Terence Crawford boxed his ears off. And anything that Spence did, Crawford has his measure, so I get it. Nothing changed because Spence just didn't have what it took to make change. But Charlo, you watched him after the fight, did not have a mark on him, didn't look gassed. And the fact that Canelo has shown in the past that he does tend to gas, he was able to fight this fight every single round at his own pace. No matter how he wanted to go fast, he'd go fast. If he wanted to rest, he'd rest. And Jermell Charlo just let him do anything that he wanted and was content just to box his way to a unanimous decision loss. And I just don't understand it. Well, maybe I do. Maybe for him now, the heart's not in it anymore as far as being the Lions only, and he's got the hunger in him anymore. Maybe he's just had it, and now it's just about the money. So didn't really want to engage too much. He just wanted to be paid. I'm not quite sure what he got paid. If someone knows, put it in the chat there. I can't remember how much it was. Let's just say it's between 5 and 10 million. I'm assuming. Could have been more. I don't know. But the fact that he just turned up for the money, and then afterwards dissed Tim Tszyu and Brian Mendoza. Like, I would have loved for him to say, yeah, look, I'm not happy with this performance, but I'm going to go back to my own division, 154, and I'm going to give some of these other young guys a chance, and hopefully I can come back and get another shot down the track, whether it be a Crawford or a Benavides, or it's not going to be Canelo again because he was beaten so comprehensively. But that's what I would have liked for him to say. But for him to pretty much brush the whole Tim Tszyu, Brian Mendoza thing aside and say, yeah, well, I want Terence Crawford because that is the next biggest money fight for him. I'm really glad that Terence Crawford said, not interested, pal. You don't deserve it. So, yeah. But anyway, all that fight did was line the pockets of greedy promoters and give Mel some retirement money. Tszyu flogs Charlo. Well, I think based on that fight, I have to agree. Look, what I will say is I think we would see a different Jermell Charlo if he did fight Tim Tszyu. And that's the most disappointing thing. I think if he fought Tim Tszyu, you would probably see him be a bit more aggressive. Of course, the size difference is a lot similar. I think I said in the preview as well, and even on this show last week, I didn't buy the whole Canelo being the bigger guy. Yes, he fights at 168. Charlo fights at 154, but they're very, very similar, I think, everyday body weights. I think Canelo just chooses to fight at 168 because it's easier at his stage of his career. Charlo kills himself to make 154. And you look at the size difference, they were the same size. I thought Charlo actually looked a little bit bigger, to be honest. But so you will see probably a little bit different when if he did fight Tim Tszyu, where he would probably come forward. He would see himself as the big dog of that division and probably fight accordingly. And that's what was so disappointing against Canelo, because he did not even try and become the top dog. He just wanted the payday and to get out there in one piece. So, yeah, it was just disappointing. Adam Kelly, hi, mate. 100% agree, Lyndon. They don't seem the full quid. Yeah, and I don't want to, rain on anyone's parade or cast judgment or anything like that. But it's just, to me, both of them look very, very unstable to me, especially Jamal. But I did see and hear that he's getting help, which is great. It is rampant out there at the moment. But Jamal Charlo, just as I said before, just seems to always be pissed. Always. But again, what do you got there, mate? Canelo looked great, but in the final analysis, who gives a shit? It doesn't prove anything either way, and it doesn't take us anywhere as a sport. Yeah, it was just a bit of a non-event in the end, wasn't it, mate? It was, it really was. It was just a non-event. I think the crowd was very subdued early. I thought the undercard fights were really good, and if we get a chance, we'll talk about them quickly as well. But I thought it was good. I thought the way the build-up was a little bit hard when you're watching on TV compared to being in the arena. But I actually thought it was, there was a bit of buzz. One thing I will say, though, before I forget, is there a bit of a competition out there? I know I'm on the soapbox tonight, but is there a bit of a competition out there with American singers or entertainers, whatever, who can butcher the American anthem the most? I mean, guys, it's an anthem. Just sing it. We don't want to have all the crescendos and the 20-second long bits in between where you raise the voice and scream at the top of your lungs and everything else. Let's just sing the song. It's a beautiful anthem, the American anthem. It is. It's probably, I think, the best in the world. It's so powerful and moving. And these guys, I've got no doubt there's a competition amongst who out there who sing it, who can stuff it up the most and make it sound the most stupid. But anyway, we're not getting onto that. It's probably getting political again, isn't it? But another one from Asbot. And it was disrespectful for him to talk about fighting Crawford next. That was a piss take. Yep, as I said, mate, 100%. Here he is, the main man, Ronnie Picken. Hi, mate. The Apatow fight and the prelims were televised on Foxtel. I taped it and watched it later. Yeah, I'm with you, mate. I must admit, again, I only watched the Apatow Thompson fight. I didn't go through the prelims. Actually, I watched a little bit of the girls, the Ellie Scotty fight. I really like her. I think she goes really well. But the other fights I didn't watch. I fast forwarded through the prelims. But by all accounts it was, man. I did watch all the prelims on the Canelo and Charlo card, and yeah, I mean, to go through them, I thought, the results were, I've just got the results here. I might just bring you in on the webcam as we're going here. So see there, Canelo over Charlo. So the score was 118-109 times 2, 119-108. I had it 118-109 119-108. I gave Charlo the 5th round, and that was it. 9th round was close, and I think those 3 judges all had it, either way. They had 1 or 2 rounds or 1 round. So that was that one. He had a really impressive performance from Mario Barrios. He had the 12-round decision over Eudenis Ugas. So the score was there 117-108 and 118-107 times 2 for the WBC interim title or silver title, whatever it was. I thought, was it the silver title? Whatever it was. And then, actually, that might have been, the interim world title. Didn't even know there was an interim title up for grabs, to be honest. I thought Crawford's got him, and that's it. Don't know why they're fighting for interim world titles when you've got the undisputed champion has made no mention of going, he has obviously talked about going up, but hasn't signed anything, so I'm not sure why they're fighting for interim belts. Fill me in if you know. Anything they do doesn't surprise me these days. The other fight, Erickson Lubin. What did you guys think? He beat Jesus Ramos Jr. They're all talking about Ramos as going to be the man of the 154-pound division. I know all the Tim Tszyu supporters found that pretty funny. I did see Glenn Jennings actually put on his social media about it. And I know I was on the D-Style roundtable on Friday. They're all pretty high on Ramos, so it'd be interesting to see what they thought as well. But the scores there, which were really surprising to me, 116, 112, 117, 111, and 115, 113. I couldn't see it, guys. I thought that Ramos won probably 7 rounds to 5, and that's probably being kind, I would have thought. So I'm not quite sure what the judges were thinking there. What do you guys think? What else we got? Ronnie again there, mate. Hey, Lyndon, Dad talk about Kiss. Hang on, mate. What have we got there? Well, talking about Kiss, mate, the best pre-show entertainment ever, if you ask me. I know they're all talking about Robbie Williams last year, and he was great, but for me, just Kiss were great. I know their voices probably weren't what they were a few years ago, but thank God for auto-tune and backing singers and all that sort of stuff. Sort of drowned them out a bit. Poor old Paul Stanley struggled a little bit with, was it I Was Made for Loving You? He did struggle a little bit with the high notes there, but Gene Simmons took over with Shout It Out Loud and Rock and Roll All Night. I thought it was great. Anyway, Big J. Jai Pataya was protecting that jaw of his. Definitely should not go to heavyweight. He'll get his jaw rearranged again, but he'll definitely go undisputed at cruiserweight. That grand final between Broncos and Cowboys 2015 was the bomb, I suppose I'll call it there. Yeah, well, that's what it was, Broncos and Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys won, didn't they, from memory? Anyway. Yeah, look, it's an interesting one. Big J did say that his jaw has never been stronger. I'm probably with you a little bit there that I don't think it can probably ever be as strong as it was. I think once it's a bit like if you get knocked out, you're always susceptible to being knocked out again, and maybe that's the same. And obviously it wasn't tested against Jordan Thompson because it was painfully obvious very, very early that he was in way over his head, and Jai Pataya was just in beast mode, wasn't he? So who knows? We'll probably get a little bit more idea, Big J, if he has a rematch with Breedis. That will probably be another indication of whether his jaw's got it again, because Breedis will come this time. And Chris Billum-Smith, I don't think much of him. I think Jai Pataya beats him quite comfortably. But I'm with you there, mate. Heavyweight's a whole different ball game, going up from, 90 kilos, fighting guys that are, 110, 120 kilos. And they can punch. So, yeah, I'm with you. But I suppose time will tell. But, geez, Dizzy made a mess of Jordan Thompson. And one thing that, as I said, I was surprised at the way that the Jai Pataya came out. But looking back in hindsight, it probably made so much sense, because you go to another country and you become a little bit hesitant, you get a little bit reactive, and your opponent has a chance to get the confidence up, get the crowd behind him. Well, Jai Pataya just went out from the first second of the first round and said, right, young fella, I'm going to take center ring. I don't care how big and strong you are. I'm going to take center ring and I'm going to knock you out. And it almost knocked him out in the first round, and it could almost been stopped if you ask me. And I know it's a world title fight and it's massive over there, and all the stakes, but geez, I think his corner had every right after the first round to say, Jordan, we're going to save you from some real hurt here, and we're going to stop it right now, because he was so far out of his depth. And but that's what I was really complimentary about Jai. He said, well, let's go. And the way he walked out as well, I was really, when he walked out to the ring and he had the eye of the tiger, and I just thought it was just a great performance from Jai. And what was even better afterwards, looking at social media and everything else and the boxing sites, was the response from the English fans. A lot of them hadn't seen a lot of Jai Pataya, if at all, and they all were just full of praise for Jai Pataya. It's suddenly that, Jordan Thompson was all the go beforehand. He was going to beat Jai Pataya, he was going to be this and that. Afterwards, it's pretty much, well, you only beat Jordan Thompson. I didn't like those, an inexperienced fighter in Jordan Thompson. I didn't like that, but it was great that the English fans saw it, and no doubt a lot of the American fans would have seen it. I watched the round table this week with D-Style. I'm sure they'll talk about it. But just really happy for Jai Pataya and his team that this will be the fight that just gets people talking about him. And the common theme has been, I didn't know that it was this good, this guy. Who is he? Where did he come from? We've always known how good he is here in Australia. And actually on the round table it was Friday morning in Australia, Thursday night in the States, when I think it was Beebs on there, said, well, geez, who would have expected Jai Pataya to beat Marius Breedis? Well, I actually had to say, well, I thought he would beat him, because I really did, like most Australians. We'd known Jai, seen him, and had no doubt he could win. And that's why I'm really glad now that the world has seen him, and there'll be big paydays. I'm sure Eddie Hearn's rubbing his hands together thinking I can make some big dollars out of this, which is even better for Jai, because it means the more money that Eddie Hearn makes, the more money that Jai Pataya makes. And a special mention also to Mick Francis as well for the the effort they've put into Jai to get him where he is. They sacrificed a lot to get him there, but no doubt they would have put the hand in the pocket to put a lot of money behind him, and now hopefully it's going to be repaid in spades. So good on them and everyone else that went over there, and Mark Wilson as well. I mentioned him in my review as well. Little bit undersung is Mark Wilson. Probably doesn't get enough credit, or for what he's done for Jai. Jai obviously thinks the world of him because he could probably have his pick of any trainer out there, and he's picked Mark Wilson. So all the best to him as well. Ronnie Picken. Oh, hang on. I'm assuming is that Karen, his daughter, on there, saying were they as good as was Kiss as good as he said back in the day? I look, as I said before, they didn't really have the high notes there, but for me, I didn't care. They rocked the joint. It was awesome. Big J says Lubin got a gift decision. Yeah, I don't know. I was watching the fight and I got a little bit worried. I thought that Ramos had won quite comfortably, and watching the decision, and when they went to the centre of the ring, and Lubin was looking very, very confident. Now, I know sometimes they do that, but he was very adamant that he'd won it, and I thought, geez, I wonder if I've been watching a different fight here. And he won by unanimous decision. Now, I thought it might have been because Ramos took the last couple of rounds off, let Lubin finish strongly, but really it wouldn't have mattered. He won one on one card by 6 points, another one by 4 points, so it really wouldn't have mattered whether he didn't win those last couple of rounds anyway. So, Asbot, you agree? Lubin lost his fight. Yep. Kyle, not more Collingwood stuff, is it? No, it's about the boxing, which is even good, even better. Love Tony Bellu's comments on DAZN. He knows the talent we have and gave us shout-outs to Tim Zhu, Jai Pataya, George Kambosos, and Sky Nicholson. He knows we're coming. Yep. You taking a piss at me, Kyle? That was a Carlton theme from a few years back. They know we're coming. I think we finished bottom that year anyway. Anyway, we're not talking football again. I think he gave Ebony Bridges, someone gave Ebony Bridges a call out as well. Look, we are coming. And you look at Sam Goodman, of course. These guys, Zhu, Apataya, Kambosos, Nicholson, and Bridges for the females. So Jason Maloney, of course. So I'm just glad that so many Aussies are getting the opportunity and they're taking them, which is even better. It's not like we're going over there and fighting and getting beaten. It used to happen a bit back in the day, but that was before we had the promoters really getting behind them and taking them overseas and doing the big training camps over there and getting good, big promoters behind them. So I just think it shows what we've probably always been capable of. And I just wonder back in the day, if a Troy Waters or a Paul Briggs or these Guy Waters as well, his Troy's brother. I'm just sort of naming a couple there that when they went over and fought overseas, if they had what the current crop has behind them, whether we might have had a few more world champions. But I'm so wrapped for them. And we've seen it this year. Jai did it on the weekend. Jason Maloney did it earlier in the year. We had George Kambosos, of course, in 2021 that have gone overseas and got the job done. Sky Nicholson, of course, she's had all but one fight, I think, overseas. Ebony Bridges now fighting over there as well. So, it's just a great time for Aussie boxing. And you're right there, Kyle. Tony Bellew knows, and it's good that everyone's sitting up and taking notice. The Unknown Samoan coming live from London. Thanks for joining in the show there, mate. Still here after the Jai fight. Crazy, crazy night. The Poms booed our national anthem. Is that right? I didn't hear that. Fuel on the fire. Jai was not happy. Well, poor old Jordan Thompson wouldn't have been happy either, mate, because he's the one that bore the brunt of it. And look, one thing I will say about that as well, we'll call you the Samoan, unless you want to be called by something else. I was rapt that Jai, obviously he embraces both his culture, excuse me, the Australian and Samoan culture. We all know he's got the Samoan heritage, but is born and raised in Australia. But he embraces both, and that's what I welcome. You would have heard myself and Tassie on here a few times. We hate when fighters don't incorporate the Australian part of it. It's great they have their heritage. George Kambosos does it. He had the Greek flag and the Australian flag, and Jai did it on the weekend as well, which is great. But I just don't like to see when they don't have the Australian flag. And I'm not getting political about the whole thing. But at the end of the day, if you're Australian, fly the Australian flag. It can be in conjunction with other flags. If that's your heritage, that's great. But always have the Aussie flag out there. But on that note, there's the Unknown Samoan. I didn't know that, mate, and I'm sure they'd be pretty embarrassed by that, to be honest. If looking back in hindsight, should never ever boo a national anthem ever, regardless of who it is. And I know some people do it to take the piss and be funny at the fights or the cricket or the football, whatever it might be. But yeah, no, it should never be done. And poor old Jordan Thompson there, mate. He copped it big time from Jai. Maybe that's why he looked so angry when the bell rang, and he went out there and got him out of there pretty quick. But I'm glad you had a good time there, mate. I'd love to go to the fights in London. I'd love to get over there. I know they get massive crowds at the fights over there, and as everyone that watches this show knows, I go to Las Vegas a couple of times a year for the fights over there. But I would love to get to London for a big fight. James Daly, what do you got there, mate? 3 Australian world champs in the olden days when there was only one world champion belt. Has Australia ever had more than one world champ at the same time? Where is Mike Altamura? Now, that's a good question. Was Johnny Famechon and Lionel Rose world champion at the same time? I'm not sure. And Jeff Fennick, Jeff Harding might have been champion at the same time. I'm just trying to think. We do need Mike Altamura. If you're watching, Mike, hit the button and come on there, mate. I'd have to probably look through it, but there are probably a couple that I can probably think of. Of course, we've got 3 at the same time now, of course. Well, 4 if you include the girls, with Ebony Bridges thrown in there as well. So, yeah, good question, James. I'll have to look at that. But, yeah, you're right. Where's Mike when you need him? But I'm just thinking, I don't know whether, Lionel and Johnny were world champs at the same time. I won't get on box right now. I'll do it later. But I'm pretty sure Jeff Harding won in 89. And Jeff Fennick was world featherweight champion at that time, so they would have been definitely the world champions around then. And I think Troy Waters fought for the IBF junior middleweight belt around that time as well. What have we got there? So I'll keep going down the comments there. And apologies if I'm missing there, guys. I'll go back if I need be. Jules H, how are you, Jules? Evening all. Did Jai look even better than the Breeders fight? Or was Thompson overmatched? Thought Jai was sensational, but how did Thompson's team let him take that fight? Well, I think a bit of both there, Jules. I think he looked better than the Breeders fight, but Thompson was overmatched. So they sort of cancel each other out a little bit. I thought Thompson was obviously overmatched, but we didn't sort of know that going in. There's a lot of people that actually gave Thompson a real chance. He was big, he was strong, but you can always look good against opponents that are specifically matched for you. Now, he hadn't fought anyone of note at all. And, I said in my review as well, I don't want to keep harping back to that, but I did say in that you don't know you're out of your depth until you're out of your depth. And Thompson knew within 30 seconds he was out of his depth. And I think so did Jai. I think Jai went out there to have a real good look at him early. He put it on him. He wanted to see what he had, and really, the minute the chin sort of went up in the air and the arm sort of went up, there wasn't really any good defense there, and Jai just saw that. And Jai's had a lot of experience in the amateurs and pros. Thompson not so much in the amateurs, and only 15 pro fights. Jai Patai would have been licking his lips when he saw that, his reaction to when he threw those first few punches, and just did what very, very good fighters, hopefully potentially great fighters do in that circumstance. They just get him out of there and get the job done. As far as letting him take the fight, Jules, look, I'm not against it. Look, I think his team would have given him a chance, but world title fights don't come around that often. And who knows what can happen. We saw it with Jeff Fennick, won it in his 7th fight, hadn't really fought anyone. I think it was like a year or something he'd been pro and won that. I know Satoshi Shingaki is a whole lot different to coming up against a Jai Pattaya, that caliber of fighter. But Jeff Harding did it against Dennis Andrews. Jeff Horn even against Pacquiao probably might not have been ready. Who knows? But you see what I'm getting at. George Kambosos had fought a few world-class fighters, but you don't know how you're going to go until you're actually in the ring with these elite fighters. And unfortunately for Jordan Thompson and his team, it didn't end well. But look, as I said, I think you get a world title fight, you take it no matter where you're at in your career. You just have to, because you might not get another shot. But what they did do is they looked after him. I thought maybe they might have put him out after 3, but they not much to worry about. 20 minutes into the 4th round was there when the referee said, "I've seen enough." So, as I said, mate, I've got no dramas with Jordan Thompson taking the fight. And the other thing is, he was the highest ranked available opponent for Jai to fight at the time. We'd had Riaporn, is that how you pronounce his name? I always get it wrong. Riaporn didn't want the fight. Massenak didn't want the fight. Breeders didn't want the fight at that stage. So, Jai Patai just wanted to fight. And there's nothing wrong with him having this type of fight at this stage of his career. Coming off the jaw injury, I got no issues with it at all from Jai Patai's side there, Jules. I think it's a perfect fight for him just to get out there, shake the ring rust, maybe wear a couple of punches to test the jaw, do it in front of a big English audience. I think on all counts, I haven't got a problem with it. Asbot. Can you imagine how much more exciting and meaningful Canelo, Benavidez, Zhu, Charlo would have been? Yeah, you're not happy, are you, about this, Asbot? About the Canelo-Charlo fight? Yeah, it would have been, mate. But look, I've said on this show a few times, I've got no issue where the Canelo-Benavidez fight is at the moment. I think the fight will happen. I've got no doubt it will happen. I just think what's going on at the moment is Canelo's just waiting on, because Benavidez has obviously got Andrade to fight later in the year. I think it's November 25th. So he's going to fight then. I just think Canelo wants the fight just to simmer a little bit more, and Benavidez to get a little bit more audience out there. And I know a lot of people disagree because he beat Caleb Plant in his last fight, but to earn the shot at Canelo Alvarez, because up until then, I know he's probably had a few okay opponents there, but Caleb Plant is his biggest win. I think Canelo, at this stage of his career, wants just the right fight at the right time, and I just get the feeling that with the Benavidez situation, Canelo's just saying, yeah, you're close, but not quite yet. Get the Andrade fight out of the way. That will then definitely get him on the plane, I think, for Canelo to say, okay, let's fight in May. That's what I think, or worst case in September. But everything happens for a reason, and Canelo's got every single right to fight Benavidez when he wants to fight him. I know a lot of fans out there saying he's ducking Benavidez. He's not ducking him at all. He's waiting for the right time to fight him. Now, I know Mayweather used to cop it as well about when he fights these guys, they're the A side, they get to call. And I know this is a little bit different because Canelo's, Benavidez is probably just hitting his peak now. Canelo's probably slightly past it or maybe right at his peak. So I've got no issues with Canelo. He's just saying to Benavidez, hey, you'll get your chance, but when I'm ready. I'm not going to be told when I've got to fight you. And I think to Benavidez' credit as well, he's saying, okay, well, if I can't have the Canelo fight, I'm going to try and even push my case further by beating Boo Boo Andrade and put my credentials out there. If Canelo doesn't fight Benavidez after that, then I think you might have a case to say, yeah, all right, it might be a little bit of ducking going on here, because let's face it, who's Canelo got other than that? It hasn't been mentioned yet. I just pray to God that it's not Jamal Charlo. I really hope it's not him. I just think that fight would be an absolute flop, and I don't think Canelo in his right mind after that fight, him and his team would see a Jamal Charlo fight making any sense whatsoever. So I'm hoping they just put the big cross right through that and say to Canelo now, and Canelo's saying to them as well, PBC I'm talking about, let's just see what happens with the Benavidez and Andrade's fight. If Benavidez looks good and wins that fight, that's the fight I want in May. I know he talks he's got 3 or 4 years left. I don't think so. I'm thinking 2 tops for Canelo. I think he's got 3 or maybe 4 fights left, if you ask me, not if he loses one, of course. I'm glad the Bivol fight's off the table at this stage anyway. I think it's a fight that I don't think that many people are interested in. And at the end of the day, why would Canelo want that fight? Very, very risky fight. I know it's an ego thing. Just doesn't make sense commercially or business-wise for me. So I don't think that fight will happen. And then who else is there at super middleweight? There's really nobody. I don't want to see him go up to light heavyweight again. I would hate to see him fight not only Bivol, but better Biv. I think his team would be saying, hey, we don't want this guy's hammer, I can tell you, because he punches hard. So that, to me, is the worthwhile fight, the fight that makes sense to me now for May, or worst case, September. But what's the other one there? Zhu and Charlo. Well, Charlo, yeah, I just don't think Charlo will fight Tim Zhu. I just don't think he will. I think the only way he goes back to 154 is Crawford. That is it. That is or if Spence beats him, that's it, and they'll probably have a rubber match then if that's the case anyway. But that's the only way I think you'll see Charlo go back to 154 is to fight. I don't think the way he just dismissed Tim and by association Mendoza as well, I just don't think you're ever going to see that fight happen. And I hate to say it, I hope I'm wrong, but my gut feel says Charlo, he'll only come back to 154 for Crawford, and if the fight doesn't happen, he'll probably stay at 160. And I'm not that stressed about it, to be honest. But after the weekend's performance, I'd rather see Tim now beat Mendoza, because that's a dangerous fight. Let's not forget that. Beat Mendoza, unify the belts against whoever it is, and then go up to middleweight when it suits him. Tim Tszyu does, in my opinion, I don't think he needs Charlo. I know we've all been infatuated with Charlo over the last year or two because they've been really closely associated with each other. I just don't think they need each other anymore, especially after the weekend's performance. I wouldn't be surprised either if Tim says, yeah, if he wants to come back to 154, yeah, I'll happily defend my belt against him, no problems at all. But I'm not going to go chasing him anymore because I don't think he needs to. I think Charlo's stock took a real beating on the weekend, and I just, as I said, I don't see Charlo coming back. Tim, I just don't think he needs him anymore. I think he's on a different path. Who knows? But we'll see. All right, Ronnie Pickett again. Hope you enjoyed the footy on the weekend too, mate. What's a Ramos versus Lubin fight? Thought Ramos was robbed blind. Thoughts, anyone? Yeah, well, mate, as I said, I had it 7 rounds to 5, and that was probably being kind to Lubin. I thought he was comprehensively beaten in the first 3 quarters of the fight. Finished okay, but it didn't. Again, when I say finished strongly, it's just because Ramos wasn't active at all. He pretty much just handed Lubin the rounds. Lubin didn't really go out and earn the rounds. I think Ramos just gave up the rounds. So I don't think he was busy enough. I don't think there was really anything to say that he deserved to win the fight. But he thought he won. So, and the judges thought he won. So maybe they know something we don't. But geez, when you've got the commentators as well afterwards, very, very skeptical about it all. I mean, that tells you all you need to know. I haven't seen one person that thought Lubin won the fight. So. Yeah, Asbot, yes, Ramos was robbed. Crazy. 22 years old. He'll be back. Glenn says Derek James is a terrible trainer. Been saying that for ages. Yeah, look, the proof's in the pudding there, Glenn, because sometimes, and more often at this level, most of the time the fighter makes the trainer, not the other way around. There are exceptions. I really rate, obviously, guys like Freddie Roach and Robert Garcia and, there's others out there, and even with all his faults, Bomac, he's obviously a great trainer. But look, I'm not saying not necessarily going to agree that Derek James is a terrible trainer, but he's been showing up. As I said before, Spence showed nothing against Crawford, and Charlo showed nothing against Canelo. So, and Frank Martin was supposed to fight Shakur Stevenson, and if that had happened, he probably would have been embarrassed for a 3rd time. So you can only go by results, and sometimes the fighters will make you look great, and everyone's saying you're trainer of the year and everything else, and then what's happening here? Then it goes the opposite way, and suddenly you're not a good trainer anymore. So I won't say he's a terrible trainer, Glenn, but I think he's been shown that he's not the trainer that we all maybe thought that he was. Asbot, 10 million Charlo got paid. Well, look, I don't blame him for taking the Canelo fight either, by the way. I've said that a few times. $10 million, you might have got $2 million fighting Tim Tszyu, or maybe 3, 4 even, I don't know. But 10 million, I don't begrudge him doing that, but at least go in there and try and win the fight. Excuse me, don't take the money and run, literally. Kyle, all right. Speaking of Sky, she's made me a fan. The Shanika Paisley Davis fight grabbed me. That's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it, that name? Grabbed me, and I want to see more of that energy from Sky, but she needs bigger fights now that she's interim champion. Yeah, she needs to step up. And look, again, I've got no dramas with Sky's performance or her opponent so far. What has she had? 8 fights, I think, now. Still hasn't had a knockout, which is, I won't say it's concerning, but I would like to see her maybe start stopping the odd girl or two, but neither here nor there. Not saying you've got to be a knockout artist to be a world champion or, in the top echelon of fighters. But she does need to step up now, Kyle, because she's been managed very, very, very well by Eddie Hearn and Matchroom. They've given her the exact opponents at the right time. And, but I think I did see something on the weekend talking about fighting Amanda Serrano. If I had any advice for Sky Nicholson, it'd be to stay the hell away from Amanda Serrano. I think she's a killer, Amanda Serrano, and has got the type of style that is all wrong for Sky. She comes ahead, she fights hard, she punches hard, she's very fit, hard, very experienced, and Sky hasn't got I don't think she's, I'd probably 100% say she hasn't got the power to go with Serrano. And we saw Katie Taylor almost get stopped by Serrano when they fought because she couldn't keep her off. And Katie Taylor's a lot stronger than Sky. So that's probably the only thing for me. Yes, she's got great boxing skills. She could outbox Amanda, but that's probably the one fight I would stay away from. But I see Sky becoming a legitimate world champion. No problems at all. I think she's got all the skills in the world. She's got the appeal. She's got the right people behind her. So I think she'll no doubt be a legitimate world champion. But as I said, mate, I'll just at least for the next 10 fights stay right away from Amanda Serrano. Let her get 3 or 4 years older. If that was me, because she's a killer. Jules H says, I think we can all see why Jamel been running from Tim. Heart just not in it more. Yeah, that's what I said, Jules. I just don't think his heart's in it. I think it's just about, just get me the money. And I know afterwards he said, I'll be in the gym Monday. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him for another 12 to 18 months. If I was his team, I'd be trying to get him in there within a week, just to get back in there, just to keep amongst it. Because I get the impression both brothers, I know Jamal Charlo's had his issues, but I just get the impression that they tend to wander off and they just sort of get lost to boxing, and then they've got to be sort of dragged back for one big fight. And you can't have one fight every 12 to 18 months, I don't think. I know Floyd Mayweather used to do it, but I just don't think his heart's in it anymore, and it just showed on the weekend. Soon as what round he get dropped in, was it the 6th or 7th? 7th it might have been, I think. It just did not even try and sort of win after that. So just sort of boxed and moved, and I just couldn't get my head around it. But I'm with you there, Jules. I agree. Big J, all right, this is about the world champions. Thank you. What have we got here? James, Australia's had multiple champions always. Rose and Famishine, yep. There you go. Sorry, I forgot about that. Barry Michael and Fennick, and Lester Allison, Jeff Fennick as well. Daniel Gill, Billy Dibb, Caesar Ramadan, and Dana Prazak. Yep. Plus we have Ebony Bridges as well. So we have 4 world champs. Yeah. Yep. Good call, Big J. Put me on the spot there a bit, James. But thanks to Big J, he's come to the party. Raven Chapman or Daniela Ramina Bermudez would be perfect, considering Sky wants to fight in December. She needs a big name. Don't know much about those two girls, I've got to admit, Kyle, but I'll take your word for it that they're up there in the scheme of things. And if Sky wants to fight in December, I think there's 2 or 3 big matchroom cards in December. I think they've got, is it Conor Ben and Eubank might be one of them, and Anthony Joshua wants to fight on one of them as well. Although there is talk that Fury and Usyk might be fighting on December 23rd as well. So there's a lot going on in December. But if she can get on one of those cards, I'm assuming that's what it'll be on, either Joshua, if he fights in December on that card, or Conor Ben and Chris Eubank. Mutsy, how are you, mate? Ramos was robbed blind. One judge who scored at 117, 111. I must have watched a different fight. I'm with you, mate. I can't remember who scored at 111. Patricia Jarman. Patricia, I think you need new glasses there, love. And the other one was John Mackay, 116, 112. Now, I'm going to say something here, and I'm not being sexist or anything like that, but in my opinion, if you're going to be a judge, you had to have, I think, been involved in boxing at some level. And I got a feeling by the age of Patricia Jarman, she hasn't been in the ring. I'm not saying John Mackay or Chris McLeod have done the same. So I'm not sort of pigeonholing a sex here, whether it be male or female. But surely you've had to have been involved in boxing in some level to become a judge. How can you judge a fight and you've never been in there? I don't get it. I understand you don't have to be an elite fighter. You don't have to be world class or a world champion, whatever it might be. But at least have been in the ring and around boxing. I don't know how you can understand like that. Patricia Jarman, I looked at her. She's got to be in her 70s. So, and I didn't see a look at the 2 guys, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to get into that too much. I'll have the woke brigade coming for me. All right, James. In the olden days, not including women, Big J, Rose, and Famishine. Yeah. Geez, they were 2 popular champions, weren't they, back in the day? This is my wife here. What do we got here? When fighters continue to be happy being the prey to Canelo's predator, they'll never beat him. They continue to allow him to run his own race. Yes, I 100% agree there. Canelo was the predator. He hunched you down. And Jamal Charlo, didn't look like a lion, did he? He looked more like a scared little rabbit who's just looking to survive. So, yes, she knows that boxing, does my wife. Kyle champion again. Did Jesus Ramos get robbed in the Lubin fight? Yes, 100%. Granted, that fight was another big disappointment, but I didn't think Ramos lost. Yeah, look, I won't say it was the most entertaining fight, Kyle. I was actually excited by the card. I actually was excited by that particular fight. I thought Lubin and Ramos would be an all-action thriller. I thought Ugas and Barrios might be a little bit more subdued. Now, it ended up being a pretty entertaining fight. Ugas was tough, but geez, he copped some punishment from Barrios, didn't he? I actually was surprised by Barrios. I wasn't that impressed by him in his previous few fights, so I was actually, impressed by him. But, that fight left a lot to be desired, Kyle, but I still think Ramos won the fight. Pound for pound king, how are you, mate? Welcome to the chat. Did I see you in the round table on Friday morning here in Australia? I think I did. Mark Wynn says, who's going to try and take Tim's belt after he defends it against Mendoza? Good question there, Mark. That's a question for everyone there. I think we watched my interview with Glenn Jennings on here last week. He said they want to get Tim in there probably February or worst case March, hopefully in Las Vegas. So he's going to look to defend it pretty quick. Of course, he's got to beat Mendoza first. It's a good question, actually. While we're going, I'm just going to bring up the rankings. Let's just see who we can come up with. I'll bring you guys in on this when it comes up. Let's have a bit of a look. I'll go to the webcam there. All right, let's go down to, where are we? Super welterweight. All right, so the WBO there, so you can see, well, Tim Tszyu is now the champion. Josh Kelly, okay. Didn't know he was ranked that high. I thought he was, okay. Josh Kelly, all right. So, yeah, Josh Kelly's number one. Xander Zayas, yeah, he's only, I don't think, he's pretty young though, Xander Zayas. Murtazaliev, yeah, look, it's not really, he's already beaten Inoue. Hey, Lubin would be a pretty good fight for him, wouldn't it? I'd like to actually see that fight. That's probably one I would like to see there, Mark. But whether he has to fight Josh Kelly in a mandatory or not, but I'd like to see him fight. He's obviously already beaten Gorshey as well. But out of all those, Erickson Lubin is the one for me I'd like to see him fight. I think Jesus Ramos was number 5, so I would think that Erickson Lubin will take his spot and maybe go even a little bit higher, I would think. Although in the WBC, he will probably go very, very high there as well because winning the interim title. So anyway, so that's probably my tip there, mate. I don't know who he's going to fight, but I would like to see him fight Erickson Lubin. That would be another name opponent for him. And would definitely get a few more brownie points as far as his standing goes. All right, I'll keep going through the comments there. Yeah, Glenn, Ramos was ordinary. Yeah, it was a strange one for him because you watched him, especially his fight like Mendoza, he just kept coming and coming and coming. Just kept hunting Mendoza, who really struggled to go with him. Well, he beat him, of course, so he got the better of him. But yeah, he just seemed to just slow down, didn't he? Or maybe because it was a 12-round fight, maybe that had something to do with maybe he ran out of gas a little bit. I don't know, but yeah, something. And then afterwards, he didn't really seem overly upset, did he? So I'm sure he'll learn from this. 22 years old, still plenty of time. Paul Camilleri, how are you, mate? Got up and watched Jai demolish the tall Englishman Englishman live. Yep, if promoted well, Jai can be a huge star in Australia, let alone the world. He's no nonsense and just wants to fight. What a talent. Yeah. And that's what I said earlier, Paul. I'm just really happy that he's got that opportunity. Eddie Hearn sees something in him now that we've always seen. So I've got no doubt that Eddie Hearn will get right behind him. And, I wouldn't be surprised if he continues to fight in England and maybe the States as well. I'm not quite sure whether, probably a bit like the George Kambosos thing and what will happen with Tim Tszyu as well, whether we've got the money here in Australia for those big fights. Cruiserweight's a pretty hot division. Well, not hot division, but it's been cruiserweights, the big fellas. They always command a lot more money. Looking at his opponents, so let's have a quick look at what he's got. So Breedis will probably be next. He's number 3, already taken care of Thompson. Floyd Masson, I think this rating must be, when is it? IBF. Oh no, it's as of September 11. That's really interesting because Floyd Masson obviously got beaten, or did he? Maybe it was after that. So so Floyd Masson will drop. There's Richard Regapore. He should never get an opportunity. So, yeah, not a lot there. And you look at the other champions, not a lot to play with there. Badu Jack might be a good fight for him for the WBC. Not real familiar with Guglielmari. I've just seen a few highlights on YouTube. And Chris Billam-Smith. I think Chris Billam-Smith will be the one that will get made. I think, obviously being in England, I wouldn't be surprised if Chris Billam-Smith is the one that Eddie Hearn ends up matching Jaya Pattaya with in the next sort of 6 to 12 months. I think that makes a lot more sense. I think they're trying to just get the ball rolling with that. And I think Chris Billam-Smith said himself after the fight that obviously there's a reason why they wanted to get Jai over to England to sort of showcase him there a little bit more, because there's a few Englishmen that he can fight potentially. What do you got there from Paul again? What do we got there? Hang on, we'll get past that one. Yep. Go the Pies. Very happy here. Congratulations, Paul. That's about all you're going to get out of me there, Paul. Deserving winners. James Daly. Big J Chanel. Dargan, you think she can be any good? My honest opinion, James, I think she'll be a battler. I think she'll be always good for entertainment. I think she always brings it. Is she good enough to go outside Australian level? In my opinion, at this stage, no. No, I don't think so. I love seeing her fight. She always brings it, and she can punch. She does gas a little bit though, and I think most of her fights have only been sort of 4 or 6 rounds. So she needs obviously to do more about that. Needs to slow down a little bit, because you fight like that against the top girls out there, and you're going to get hurt. They're going to pick you off and gas you out and then knock you out, basically. So, but look, not everyone has to be a world-class fighter. We need fighters like Chanel who are good domestic level fighters. As long as she's not getting hurt or whatever, then good luck to her. But as far as being international standard, James, no, I don't think so. Just being honest. Cole Champion, and sorry, I will say, looking forward to seeing her fight Amber Amelia on the Zoo Mendoza card. That'll be a ripper fight. Kyle says, Eddie Hearn said it best. It's a shit show with the Billam-Smith versus Okali. How do you pronounce it? Okali fight. Apparently has a rematch clause. You can tell they want nothing to do with Jai. Not yet, anyway. They talk it up a little bit. Well, he was afterwards, wasn't he? But I'm with you, mate. I don't think they want any of that. Big J says, honestly believe that Tim, Jai, and Jason can all go undisputed in their respective divisions. Ebony won't, though. She'll get her ass handed to her by Dina Thorsland. Yeah, well, I've probably been a little bit more controversial. I'll start with the Ebony situation. I think she's obviously been... full credit to her for the Shannon O'Connell win, by the way. No problems with that at all. Full credit. Yep, full respect. But I think she's been very, very carefully matched up until that point. She had no choice but to fight Shannon. She only did because she had to. She was going to get stripped. And as I said, full respect to her for winning that fight. She deserved a win and all the credit that went with it. But I think she's one of those fighters that has to be very, very carefully matched, because girls like Dina Thorsland are out there. And I think my opinion would handle Ebony no problems and put a bit of a beat down on her. So, but again, look, that's boxing. That's why they have the different belts. You can pretty much do what you want. Ebony's got match room behind her, so I'm sure she'll make plenty of money and be matched pretty well. But I think as long as Ebony's matched correctly, then she'll continue to win and make herself and her promoters a fair bit of money. But I'm with you there, Big J. Stay away from girls like Dina Thorsland, because they are very, very good fighters. Pound for pound, King. What fight was a judge that scored 117, 111 watching? Well, that's what I said, mate. I don't know. She needs some new glasses. Big J, Chanel, Dargan, too early to tell, mate. Honestly, yeah. As I said, who knows? But she looks very, very raw at the moment. Just all gung ho. Just fights. Well, they're 2 minutes. 2 minutes of every round of every round. She just needs to take it back a little bit, have a bit more of a look at the girls, and just pick her punches. I don't know whether it's she gets a bit excited and gets the nerves and butterflies and goes out and just goes to war, or maybe she needs a trainer who can just refine her a little bit. Maybe a Johnny Lewis or someone, refine those skills a little bit, pull her back a little bit, and who knows what she might offer. But the way she fights at the moment, I can't see her getting past domestic level. I hate women's boxing, says James. They'll be complaining that they can't have children in retirement. Sky and Chanel Dargan, I like though. Careful, James. I'll come for you too, mate. Hey, it's your decision though. I'll admit, I won't go out of my way to watch women's boxing unless it's at that real elite level. Like, I loved watching, well, Shannon O'Connell and Ebony Bridges was a really good fight. I loved the Amanda Serrano, Katie Taylor fight. I like watching both of those girls fight whoever. But, yeah, look, I'll admit I won't go out of my way to watch most women's boxing, but good luck to them. And they're getting better and better. Some of them are real tough ladies, and so full respect to them for in there. They deserve to get a crack at it. There's more and more competition. The pool has been very, very shallow since day dot, but now we're starting to see a bit of depth. And who knows, in 10 or 15 years, years time, bit like NRLW, AFLW. I mean, they're a long way behind sports like soccer and cricket and these types of sports where women have been playing those sports for a long, long time. The football codes, or AFL, NRL, and boxing, probably about 15 to 20 years it's sort of been. It's just going to take a lot more time. That's all. Here we got here. What do we got here? It's a football comment. Here's something that's going to piss you off, Lynden. This is Big J. Since the inception of the AFL, so 1990 onwards, Collingwood has won 3 premierships, while Carlton has only won 1. Yes. Thanks for reminding me of that, Big J. I did know that. We won in 95, lost in 99, and lost in 93 as well. Collingwood, I think they've played in 7 or 8 grand finals in the same amount of time, although they've only won 3 now. So, quick comment for you there, or fact for you there too, mate. Up until the weekend, Collingwood had played 16 grand finals in the last 40 or 50 years, whatever it had been, had won 2 and drawn 12. Won 2, lost 12, drawn 2. So just because you're playing them all the time doesn't mean you've got to win them all the time. But let's stop with the Collingwood subjects there, guys, because I'm a bit over it already. Big J, don't forget Paul Alcuso has a fight this week in Townsville. Yeah, we'll go over that, mate. Got a couple of big shows this weekend, Tasman fighters as well. Well, actually, we'll go over that quickly now. So you got this Saturday night in Mooloolaba at the Bowls Club. Dana Coolwell will fight Angelo Beltran over 10 rounds. Liam Pope will fight Jack Tresida over 8 rounds for the Australian Super Bantamweight title. Orion Brown will fight Comet Jempatat, I think that's how you pronounce it, over 6 rounds at 130. And Joel Walsh, who's had 1 draw, will fight Connor Birch over 4 rounds at 147. So that's that card. And at the Townsville Entertainment Centre, Paul Alcuso, he's only had 5 fights, thought he had a couple more than that, will fight Gabriel Omar Diaz, who's 14-5, over 10 rounds at 175. Also on that card, Davita Pengay Jr. will fight Frank Amato over 6 rounds at heavyweight. Austin Akuso, so Paulo's brother, will fight Philly Moni Naliva Jr. over 6 rounds at cruiserweight. And Jermaine Pamgai will fight Napoti Dawa over 4 rounds at heavyweight. So that's on the Townsville Entertainment Centre this weekend. So I'm not sure. I'm assuming they'll be streamed. I've got no doubt the Tasman Fighters one will be streamed. I think, is it the Akuso one's on Stan? So if you want to pay for that one, go right ahead. What else have we got there? Kyle Champion. How is Jason Maloney's hand? Do we have an update? Yeah, I did speak to him at the Hall of Fame, didn't I, Kyle? About a month or so back. And all systems go. He's not sure whether he'll fight at the end of the year yet. Looking more likely that he won't. But Andrew will. He really wants to have another fight before the end of the year. But apparently Jason's hand, he's good. It wasn't broken. It was badly sprained, I think. But he said it was probably the most pain he's ever had in his hand. So that's good news. But that was a tough fight for Jason as well. So I got no dramas with him. Just having the rest of the year off, regrouping, and hopefully getting Emmanuel Rodriguez or someone like that, or Donaire maybe, or who knows. But so that will be early in the year, I would say, Kyle. But yeah, as far as his hand, apparently we're all good, no complications. What's that, James? Sky and Beck Hawker is a better fight. I'd love to see that fight, Big J. I would love to see that fight. That would be awesome. Talk about big Aussie fights. Now, I think Beck Hawker, she hasn't really been active either, has she, lately? I don't think she's fought for a little bit. But her and Sky would be a really, really big domestic fight. I think that would be great if Sky wins the title or Beck wins the title, to do that in Australia. I'm not sure whether Beck Hawker is the type of opponent that Sky Nicholson wants at this stage. Someone that's tough and hard and really goes in and fights, every minute of every round and can punch. And Beck Hawker can punch. So I think Sky will just want to continue the way she's matched at the moment. Not saying she won't beat Beck Hawker. It'd be a great fight. But I think at the moment, that's probably at least a year away, I would think there, mate. But I'm with you. I would love to see that fight. Bill Hack, away, mate. We all love Tim, but Jai deserves all the hype. Jai, Australia's number one, but all I hear about is Tim. I think Jai will be around as long, if not longer. Yeah, it's a really good point, Bill. Look, there's no doubt that Tim Tszyu is obviously the biggest name in Australia, and that must be frustrating to guys like Jai. I know it's frustrating to George Kambosos as well, but it just is what it is. He's just got something about Tim. Actually, I know what it is with Tim. I'll say he's got no limit behind him for starters. And they got the main event or the pay-per-views behind him very early in his career, got his name out. Of course, he's got the last name, I get that, but I think it's more than that these days. People have just fallen in love with the whole Tim Tszyu experience, I suppose you'd like to call it. Jai, unfortunate at the moment. Tasman Fighters have done a great job, but they just haven't had the platform for him to grow. He's been on, he has been on Fox Sports, I think, but on also the streaming services. He just hasn't had a platform that Tim has had. There's been no pay-per-views. I know he had the Marius Breeders fight, but unfortunately sometimes it's just not a perfect world out there, Bill, that the fighters that deserve it get the attention they deserve. It just doesn't happen. Tim, everyone's got a love affair with Tim for some reason. They all love him. Jai, on the other hand, it's just going to take a little bit of time as well. Jason Maloney's in the same boat as well. He's a legitimate world champion, won the world title in the ring, and as much as we love Tim, I think he'd be the first one to say, well, I haven't won it in the ring, so I don't really consider myself the champion until I maybe at least beat Mendoza for it. So, but Jai, George, and Jason have won it in the ring, and I can't wait for Tim, by the way, to beat Mendoza to rightfully lay claim to the belt. That'd be great, but sometimes just things don't work out the way we think, and I just think Jai's going to be one of those fighters, unfortunately, that will just be one of Australia's best kept secrets. He had no publicity at all from any mainstream media over the weekend, which I thought was disgraceful. Nothing at all. Didn't see anything anywhere, which is just shocking. So, but I get what you're saying there, mate, and I've got no doubt at some stage the Australian public will know more about Jai, but I don't think he'll ever be at the level, unfortunately, that Tim Tszyu is at now. I think the closest we've had to it is George Kambosos. Before that was Jeff Horn, of course. And I feel for Jason Maloney as well. I didn't get the credit he deserved either. Maybe he will get it down the track. But they all put in the same amount of work. They all sacrifice just as much. And unfortunately, sometimes, mate, they just don't get what they deserve. Kyle Champion, Jai is terrifying. He's the one that will achieve undisputed first. Yeah, I wouldn't argue with that, mate. I mean, well, you look at all of them. Jason, that might take a little bit of time. George Kambosos, well, it looks like he might fight Loma for the IBF belt, so it might take him a little bit of time to win it. Jai, on the other hand, who knows? His next 3 fights might all be world title fights or unification fights. So, yeah, he's terrifying, mate. And when he was in that mode, sometimes you've seen him in the past. He'll go in there and he'll just, he'll go through the motions. He'll outclass opponents and do what he has to do. On the weekend, he was in knockout mode, and when he does that, he's even more dangerous. So, so it's a lot to look forward to for him. Unknown Samoan says Jai was burning from the press conference. Eddie Hearn talked up Jordan Thompson repeatedly, mentioning Jordan Thompson's power. When he talked about Jai, he never mentioned Jai's fighting attributes. Yeah, well, he did after the fight, didn't he, Samoan? Yeah, look, I think Jai actually said that as well afterwards, didn't he? He wasn't overly impressed by Eddie and the whole promotion and the fans and the media, who really didn't give him his due. It was all about Jordan Thompson. Now, I get it to some extent. Jordan Thompson's the English fighter. Jai Patai, he's just the Australian/Samoan who's coming over here, and our boy will take care of him. I get that, and it's a little bit the same. I think that when Marius Breeders come to Australia, I don't think he got quite the respect he deserved as well. I think a lot of Australian fans didn't really know a lot about him. The hardcore ones did, of course, but I don't think most fight fans knew of his credentials. So you can understand, and the Australian media sort of just in that aspect getting behind Jai. But the same here. I don't, I'm not surprised that the English press did not get behind him, but I was surprised that Eddie Hearn really didn't give him his due either. But I've got a suspicion now, mate, that he will get it going forward. Mr. Pads, great to have you in the chat there, mate. Hey, Lyndon, I hope Opatai fights Bill and Smith instead of Bill and Smith rematching O'Coley. Yep, is it O'Coley or O'Coley? O'Coley, whatever it is. Obviously, boxers are horrible to do business with, but I hope it happens nevertheless. Yeah, I'm with you, mate. I think the Opatai Bill and Smith fight will happen. I think Eddie Hearn will want it to happen. He wants big fights in England. He did. I think I saw an interview where he did say he's a little bit concerned that Fury Joshua is not going to happen. So Joshua and Wilder will most likely happen overseas. Fury's, of course, fighting Ngannou and Usyk in Saudi Arabia. Eubank and Ben, there's talk that might not be in the UK either. So I could see why he's saying we need big fights in England and don't send them all overseas. So that fight there makes a lot of sense. I think that's a big money fight for both boys. Even though Bill and Smith's pretty, I won't say he's unproven because he's won the title, but maybe another fight or two beforehand. I think that will manufacture into a big fight. We'll keep going with the comments here, boys and girls. Hawker is still undefeated, but Sky needs a bigger name. She needs somebody that can test her footwork. She thrives on active fighters. Flat-footed fighters give her nothing. Yeah, I agree with you, Kyle. I've said here before, I can't believe that most girls just follow her around the ring. Don't cut off the ring at all, and she's got that amateur style where she lays right back on that back foot because she's quite tall for her weight, but she gets back on that back foot, which makes her reach seem even longer. Girls can't get at her, and she just steps off to the side. You see her, it's a jab and a check hook as she steps off to the side every single time. And I haven't seen one fighter or opponent pick up on it. I mean, watching it at home is like, geez, all you got to do is get her moving to her left, and you take away probably 50 or 60% of her arsenal, and you're just letting her move to the right. Jab, check hook, step off to the right every single time. Geez, it doesn't take that rocket science to work it out, but no fighter or opponent of hers has done it yet. Well, I've got a feeling Beck Hawker, she's on your chest from the first bell. Now, I think Sky Nicholson's got the tools to beat Beck Hawker. Don't get me wrong, but that is a real fight. And two Aussies. I think Eddie Hearn at some stage will probably look at that and say, "Yep, okay, this is a fight we can make in Australia," but not probably quite yet. The Unknown Samoan says every English fighter on that panel said at the end of the talk, "I can't wait for Thompson to be world champ." I saw that. Obviously, coach to say more fuel on the fire, small ring. But yeah, that was interesting. I remember when it first came on, I thought, geez, that ring seems a little bit small, doesn't it? And Jai obviously mentioned it afterwards. But end of the day, mate, it ended up being to Jai's advantage and to Thompson's disadvantage because he had nowhere to go. He had nowhere to run because Jai just hunted him down. And he couldn't get out of there. So ended up being in Jai's favour, of course. So yeah, but I don't blame him for not being happy about that. Mr. Pad says in regards to Bivol, Ben Shalom said that the winner of Aziz versus Buatsi will fight one of Yade or Bivol, nobody else but those two. Yeah, I did see that Eddie Hearn wants Bivol to fight, hopefully at the end of the year or worst case very early in the new year, Mr. Pad. So I must admit these days I don't really take much notice of the ifs, ands or maybes. It's just like when it's signed, then we'll talk about it. There's so many politics and smoke and mirror that goes on, or smoke and mirrors that happens in the game. So yeah, I did see a lot of those rumours there, Mr. Pads. But as I said, until it's signed, sealed, and delivered, I don't bother talking about it anymore. And that's why it's good to be talking, hopefully, about Fury and Usyk now, because apparently the fight's been signed for December 23rd. So we'll see. And Glenn, I agree with you, mate. Charlo's never going back to 154 with the asterisks of Terence Crawford. I just don't think he can make the weight anymore. He looked big at 168, so how's he going to lose 14 pounds, which is, 6.5 kilos? It's a lot of weight. And Mick Tabor, yes, I agree. Big J, ease up on Carlton. Ease up. Carl, is Charlo's done? His reputation hit that hard that there is no point in Zoo fighting Charlo. That's what I said, mate. I agree. What do we got? Ronnie Pickham. Looking forward to the Woods versus Warrington fight on the weekend. I'm favouring the big punching Woods to get to get the win. Thoughts, anyone? Yes, I think Wood gets the win. Ronnie, I agree with you. Will be a good fight. I think that's on DAZN, isn't it? So if you've got DAZN, make sure you check it out. I'm not sure it'll be first thing Sunday morning, I'm assuming, but I think Wood wins that fight too, mate. I agree. All right, I've got a few more comments to go. I've got about 10 minutes to go. Just it goes quick, doesn't it? James, Jai and Tim both speak highly of one another. Jai often sends Tim messages of support before his fights. Opatai has a great attitude about lack of exposure. It will come in good time. Yeah, look, if you've ever met Jai Opatai, a lot of you guys probably have out there at the fights, he's just so approachable, such a lovely guy. Gives up his time to anyone. And Tim's obviously the same. George is the same. Jason's the same. That's one attribute I can say about Australian boxers, that they have such a great temperament. They're very appreciative of their fans and their standing. And I've never really met any Australian world champion that I've ever sort of had a bad word about that doesn't do that. So, but yeah, both great attitude. And why wouldn't you have respect for each other and speak highly of each other? We need to see more of that. And that's why I was actually glad to see also Tim and George Kambosos. They've got probably reason to have a little bit of history, because George was obviously trained by Tim's trainer Igor. I've never heard anyone say a bad word about Jason Maloney, so he's never going to get any feedback from anybody. But yeah, no, I think it's good that all the Aussies work in together. They're all in different weight divisions, so let's all get along and and support each other. Mick Tabor says, has Sky ruled out going back to the amateurs? She was talking about competing in the Olympics not too long ago. Yeah, hasn't really been much said about that, Mick. When's Paris? Next year, isn't it? So, it wouldn't surprise me, although she's got to qualify, and I think by now they'd almost have the qualifications done. Harry Garside, of course, has been over there trying to qualify. So, yeah, don't be surprised if he doesn't go back, Mick. Unless maybe there's a different type of qualification for the pros going back to the amateurs. But as I said, Harry's gone back. He's fought in a couple of qualifiers. I'm not sure whether he's made the team. I'm assuming he will. But yeah, Sky, I haven't really heard anything lately, mate. She's just been talking about winning world titles, so the odds are maybe she won't go back. Big J says, Kyle, I reckon Beck beats Sky. Yeah, I'm not saying she wouldn't, mate. I think she's a massive chance of beating Sky. Would be a great fight for Aussie female boxing. We didn't get Shannon versus Susie Ramadan back in the day. We did get Ebony versus Shannon, of course, but we need to have more females, Aussies versus Aussies, and that goes for the men as well. Mr. Pads, I saw an interview with her a couple of days ago, and she said she's basically done with that chapter of her career for now. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense there, Mr. Pads, so thanks for that, mate. Jules H says, from all reports, the big fight down the line at 154 for Tim will be Charles Conwell. Okay. Madrimov is also a legit threat, very similar style to Tim. Well, let's have a look at the ratings again, just quickly. So, Charles Conwell, well, he's ranked number 4, Charles Conwell. I'll quickly bring you guys in while I'm looking at this. So, Charles Conwell, I'm not sure he's there at the moment, mate, but Jules. But anyway, we'll see. He's ranked number 4, ranked number 7 by the IBF, not ranked by the WBA. Where is he with the WBC? Number 1, okay, with the WBC. Okay, well, yeah, I would think that Tim, I think he definitely wants to go to 160 at one stage. I would think his fights would be, well, it's looking like it's going to be Jesus Ramos, but that ain't going to happen. I think Crawford would definitely be on his radar. I think Lubin would be on his radar now. And apart from that, apart from unification fights, that is, I can't really see any other fights in there. Maybe Fundora if he gets back on the winners list again. But apart from the unification fights, so you've got, well, actually, we don't know what's happening with unification fights yet because Charlo's still the champion in those other 3 divisions. So we're not sure. But, yeah, there's probably 2 or 3, maybe 4 fights there for Tim. But I wouldn't have put Charles Conwell in there, Jules. But you never know. All right, so I've got a couple more questions to go there. What do we got? Asbot. Zoo would walk through Lubin, I reckon. Yeah, I don't think Lubin's strong enough to keep him off, mate. I don't think. Mr. Pads. Oh, hang on. What's going on there? I'll go back to that one for a sec so we can get... Where's Jules? We'll get rid of that comment from Jules so we can move on. All right, there it goes. All right, we'll go back to me. All right, Lynden, there are some reports recently that Badu Jack vacated his belt and plans on becoming a champion at Bridgerweight. Okay, I didn't see that one, mate. And that Makabu now is going to fight for the vacant belt. Oh, there you go. Okay, thanks for that, mate. I was not aware of that. It's the first I've heard of it. So looking at that, they don't have Bridgerweight on the rankings here, boxing scene. All right, so yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting, mate. I hadn't heard of that, but thanks for letting us know. So that would be Noel, Givor, and Makabu, would it? He's number one is Givor. Noel Givor is ranked number one with the WBC. So, yeah. All right. No, thanks again there, mate. Kyle says I'd give Lubin one round against Zoo. It's a Campo all over again. I think he's a little bit slicker than Ocampo was, Kyle. Ocampo just... I don't know what he was thinking, trying to sort of come out and... Well, actually, he didn't really come out and have a go at Tim, did he? Tim come out all guns blazing, and he just made a mess of Ocampo. He didn't really have a lot of defence. I think Lubin's a pretty slick sort of boxer, and I think he'd have a real good look at Tim. So I think that wouldn't be an easy fight for Tim at all. I think that would be maybe a late round stoppage, but maybe I think more likely a decision win for me, if you ask me, Carl. But hopefully we get the opportunity to see it. Mark Wynn says, hopefully the IBF, WBC and WA strip Cholo too, then Tim can get undisputed. Yeah, they need to do it. They need to take a stand. Mark also says the mighty West Coast have 4 cups since 90, 92, 94, 06 and 18. Yeah, they have, mate. Yep. No mention of the last couple of years there, though, Mark. But I'm with you, though. Apart from Hawthorn, they've been the best team, probably along with Geelong, I'm probably assuming, as the better or the most successful teams of this era. Big J, I'm with you there, mate. Final word. Screw Collingwood. I'm with you there, mate. Let them enjoy it while they can. Hey, look, can't really lay the boots into them, can you? Because they've got the cup and we don't. But anyway, so enjoy it while you can. Yes, you are. Yes, you are right there, Big J. Cholo KO'd Lubin in a round. That was about 6 years ago, I think, though, wasn't it, Big J? I think Lubin's come a bit further than that these days. And look, sometimes styles make fights. So who knows? But yeah, I think for me, Tim wins the fight. Don't get me wrong. But I think Lubin would be, was he 27, 28 or something? I think he turned 28 today, actually. So, he only would have been 21, 22 back on the day. So I think you would see a lot more experienced Lubin this time. Obviously, he's had a lot of fights since then. So I don't have any doubt that Tim wins, but I don't think that'd be as easy as a first round knockout there, mate. A couple other things before we go. So, of course, speaking of Tim Tszyu, he's now the undisputed WBO 154-pound champion. So congratulations to Tim. But as I said earlier, I got no doubt he just wants to get Mendoza in there to finish him off so that he can be, I'm sure in his own mind, the legitimate world champion. I don't think it would sit well with him being handed the belt, but come October 15th here in Australia, October 14th in the States and England, I think he'll be the top dog in the 154-pound division. So I think that's about it now, guys. Unless there's any other comments there. I think that's about it. So we'll call it a night there, guys. Thanks very much again for joining in. That hour and a half always goes super quick. Make sure you check out my review of the fight that's on YouTube at the moment. Full review of the Jai Opetaia fight and the Canelo Charlo fight. So check that out. The weekly roundup will be on Friday. And I'm going to do the top 10 pound for pound Australian and world rankings. I was going to do it at the end of the month, so it would have been this week. But I think I'm going to wait until after Tim's fight, mid-October, to do that. But there'll be plenty of other videos coming out, so make sure you tune in. And until next time, thanks very much for watching the show and putting your comments down below. That's what makes the show what it is. And I hope you all have a good week, and we'll see you then.